Hello everyone. In previous video, we have seen the bacterial habitat and the structure of the Monera, structure of the prokaryotic cell. So here in this video, let's discuss about the nutrition of the bacteria. So not every bacteria is having a same type of nutrition. So different type of bacteria is having a different type of nutrition. So based on the nutrition, bacteria are divided into two types. One is autotrophic and the another one is heterotrophic bacteria. Coming to the autotrophic bacteria, what is autotrophic? So here the name itself is indicating auto means self. So here the bacteria is preparing their own food material by its it is preparing their food material by its own self, so it is called as autotrophic bacteria. This autotrophic bacteria is again divided into two types. One is photoautotrophic and the another one is chemoautotrophic. So what is photoautotrophism? That means here the bacteria is preparing their food material by using the sunlight as the source. Here they prepare their food material by using the sunlight. So example of these photoautotrophs are cyanobacteria. Coming to the chemoautotrophs, here the bacteria are preparing their own food material by using chemicals. Here the name itself is indicating chemo. That means chemicals. So by using chemicals as a source, the bacteria are preparing their food material. So the example of the chemoautotrophs are Nitrosomonas and the Nitrococcus. So this is the autotrophic bacteria. And then comes to the heterotrophic bacteria. So here the bacteria which couldn't synthesize their own food material by its own is called as heterotrophic bacteria. So here these bacteria are simply depending on the other organisms for obtaining the food. Um, like the type of heterotrophic bacteria or saprophytic, parasitic, and the symbiotic. So, this is the main theme, and let us dive into the topic. So, let's discuss this about these photoautotrophs, chemoautotrophs, and the heterotrophic bacteria in detail. So, coming to the first one, photoautotrophism. So, what is photoautotrophes? We have already said that the bacteria which can prepare their own food material are called as photoautotrophs. And the best example of this is cyanobacteria, and it is also called as blue-green algae. So here what happens? This cyanobacteria is preparing the food material by using sunlight. So what how the cyanobacteria is preparing their food material by using sunlight, how it is utilizing the sunlight, why other bacteria couldn't utilizing the sunlight, but cyanobacteria, why it is utilizing the sunlight? Is there any element present in the cyanobacteria? Yes, there is a pigment called chlorophyll. This chlorophyll A pigment is present in the cyanobacteria, and this chlorophyll bacteria job is to absorb the sunlight. So this chlorophyll A pigment absorbs the sunlight, and once it absorbs the sunlight, then the cyanobacteria utilizes that sunlight as a source in preparing the food material. So we can see this process of absorption of sunlight in green plants, right? In case of green plants, these are also having the pigment called chlorophyll in their thylakoids, and that chlorophyll, because of that chlorophyll, green plants also preparing the food material by utilizing sunlight. So this is the main thing which is helping. And here the cyanobacteria is unicellular. Of course, all the prokaryotes are unicellular. So let's see the structure of the cyanobacteria. So here the green colored layer is called as the outermost layer is called capsule. It is glycocalyx capsule, and the next layer which is present next to it is the cell wall. This thick layer, this thick green colored wall is called cell wall, and this blue colored layer is called as plasma membrane. And here this is the envelope, this capsule, cell wall, and plasma membrane together called as envelope. And inside this envelope there is a cytoplasmic material, and inside the cytoplasmic material, this there are some green color structures in this cyanobacteria. These green colored structures are called as thylakoids, and inside this green colored structure, this thylakoid, there is a pigment called chlorophyll A, and that is the main reason of absorbing the sunlight. This chlorophyll A absorbs the sunlight, and because of that sunlight, this cell can prepare their own food material. So this is the key concept. And then, yes, this cyanobacteria, some of the cyanobacteria can be present as colonial forms. What is colonial? Colonial means colony. See, actually, here the example is microcystis. This microcystis is one type of cyanobacteria. This is actually their body looks like this. So it is unicellular, and it is having, of course, thylakoids, and here inside the thylakoids chlorophyll A pigment is present, and that traps the sunlight. So this is the microcystis. This microcystis, uh, there are like this type of microcystis are present here. More number of microcystis all together present here as a colony. So this is single cell. Like this cell, there are more number of cells aggregate together, and they form a colony like structure. This is called as colonial. So this is usually present as colonial. So this is one type of cyanobacteria, and some other cyanobacteria may appears like filamentous. See, if you can see here, um, this the examples of the filamentous cyanobacteria is Nostoc and Abina. So these two cyanobacteria appears like a filamentous structure. So here I have drawn the nostoc structure. This nostoc is having this filamentous body, and there is a special structure here is called as heterocyst. So the job of this heterocyst is actually fixing of nitrogen. So for example, there is some nitrogen around surrounding this bacteria. So this bacteria will fix that nitrogen, will trap that nitrogen and fix here in this specialized structure called heterocyst. So this bacteria, filamentous bacteria, helps in fixing of nitrogen. And also there is a special layer called a mucilaginous layer around its body. This mucilaginous layer is present in Nostoc, whereas in Anabina it doesn't have mucilaginous layer. Both Nostoc and Anabina is having a similar kind of structure, but the difference is mucilaginous sheath. In case of Nostoc, it is present, whereas in Anabina it is absent. So here the total concept is this all these three types of cyanobacteria is having a pigment called chlorophyll A, and that helps in trapping of sunlight, absorbing of the sunlight. Because of that sunlight, they prepare their own food material. So this is the concept. And one more thing I'd like to in I'd like to tell you is algal blooms, cyanobacterial algal blooms. So here, what is cyanobacterial algal blooms? I will display a picture here. So here you can see the cyanobacteria, which is present. Like there are more number of cyanobacteria aggregated together, and they're present on the polluted water body. So when the more number of cyanobacteria aggregates on the polluted water body, then it is called as a bloom, cyanobacterial bloom. So this is actually, this cyanobacteria releases some toxins called cyanotoxins, that is causing harm to the animals present in the water body. So and also this cyanobacterial bloom pollutes the water. So yeah, this is all about the photoautotrophism. Then next come, let us see the chemoautotrophism. What is chemoautotrophism? We have already said that chemo means chemicals, and the or bacteria which can prepare their own feed material by using the chemicals are called as chemoautotrophs, and the process of this nutrition is called as chemoautotrophism. So here the bacteria examples are Nitrosomonas, Nitrococcus, Thiobacillus. They usually called as chemoautotrophs. And see here, I've drawn a bacterial cell. Here this blue colored one is a bacterial cell. See, this bacterial cell actually do a process called as oxidation. So this bacterial cell oxidizes the inorganic compounds like ammonia, nitrates, and nitrites. They do this process called oxidation process. When they oxidizes the inorganic compounds like ammonia, nitrates, and nitrates outside the cell, then some amount of energy is released by this process, and this amount of energy is utilized by this cell, and this energy uh, is utilized by the cell by converting the carbon dioxide into the glucose, which is nothing but a food. Okay, so here the concept is simple. So here the bacterial cell is doing a process called oxidation. So it is oxidizing the inorganic compounds. While the process oxidation is doing, then some amount of energy is released, and that energy is converted into ATP by this bacteria, and this ATP, this energy, is utilized by this bacteria for converting the CO2 into glucose. So ultimately, eventually, this bacteria is preparing its food by doing a process called oxidation. Okay, so this is for so we can say that this bacteria is preparing the food by using a chemicals, right? Oxidation of ammonia and nitrate. So the ammonia, nitrite are nothing but chemicals. So from the chemicals they are obtaining the food, so that is called as chemoautotrophism. Let's see what is this oxidation process and how the bacteria and what type of bacteria are involved in this oxidation process. So this is the oxidation process. So let's say this is the ammonia, and now the bacteria called Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus, they oxidize this ammonia into nitrite. Okay, now the nitrite is again oxidized by nitrobacter into nitrate. So here the ammonia is converted into nitrite by Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus. Again, this nitrite is converted into nitrate by nitrobacter. So here what happens during this oxidation steps, some amount of energy is released during the conversion of ammonia into nitrate, nitrite into nitrate. Some amount of energy is released, and that energy is utilized by this Nitrosomonas, Nitrococcus, and Nitrobacter for preparing its food. So this oxidation step is doing outside the cell. This is the oxidation step. So the entire process is occurring here outside the cell by this bacteria. We can say it is a nitrosomonas or nitrococcus, any bacteria. So it is doing this oxidation step, and while doing this oxidation step, some amount of energy is released, and that energy is converted into ATP. This ATP is utilized by this bacteria in converting CO2 into glucose, the food. So indirectly or directly, it is obtaining the food from the chemicals. So that is called as chemoautotrophism. So this is all about chemoautotrophism. In next, we'll discuss about heterotrophism. So yes, so what is heterotrophic nutrition? Heterotrophic nutrition means, we have discussed earlier, it means the bacteria which couldn't synthesize their own food material. If the bacteria depends upon other organisms for the food, then they are called as heterotrophic bacteria, and the process is called as heterotrophic nutrition. So here there are three types of heterotrophic nutrition. One is saprophytic, and parasitic, and symbiotic. So coming to the saprophytic nutrition, what is saprophytic? Saprophytic means if the bacteria is depending upon like the dead and decaying organic matter, if they feeds on dead and decaying organic matter and obtain the food, then that type of bacteria are called as saprophytes, and the type of nutrition is called as saprophytic nutrition. So here, if you see, if any animal dies, then it will slowly get decomposed, right? So the reason for this decomposition is actually the bacteria, this saprophytic bacteria. They go to that body and they release some type of enzymes. So they secrete some enzymes. That enzymes will break down that complex structure into a simple structure, simple molecules. Once that complex structure is break down into simple things, then the simple molecules are absorbed by this saprophytic bacteria. So this is what saprophytic bacteria do. So example of this saprophytic bacteria is Clostridium. And the next type of nutrition is parasitic nutrition. So some type of bacteria exhibit this type of nutrition. What is parasitism? Parasitism means if any organism is depending on the other organism, it is relying on the other organism, and also in turn, if it is causing any harm to that host, then it is called as parasitism. For example, the best example is Salmonella typhi. This Salmonella typhi is a bacteria which is presence in our body, which sometimes we get typhoid, right? In that time, actually the typhoid is caused by this bacteria called Salmonella typhi. This bacteria comes into our body, it enters into our body, and it gets the food and nourishment from our body, and it in turn causes typhoid to us. So this is an endoparasite which lives in our body and in turn causes a fever called typhoid fever. This is one type of parasite. And the second type of parasite is Mycobacterium. It causes tuberculosis. So this bacteria is also an parasite. This bacteria gets the nourishment and the food from us. It completely depends on us, and it in turn causes the tuberculosis. So this is the parasitic nutrition. Then coming to the symbiotic nutrition. So what is symbiotism? Symbiotism means actually if the two organisms are living together, here there are two organisms which live together and they help each other. Like if you see here, there is a leguminous plant. There is a plant here. This plant name is called leguminous, and there is a bacteria called as a rhizobium bacteria. Here this plant actually needs the nitrogen, okay, but it couldn't fix the nitrogen by its own. So here the rhizobium bacteria can able to fix the nitrogen. So it helps this plant, this bacteria helps this plant by fixing the nitrogen. It lives here at the roots of this plant, and in turn this rhizobium bacteria get the nourishment and food from its plant, from this plant. So this plant and rhizobium both helps each other. This type of process is called as symbiotism, and this type of nutrition is called as a symbiotic nutrition. Yes. So this is all about the heterotrophic nutrition. And so we have done with this nutrition of the Monera. So we have seen the autotrophic nutrition. In the autotrophic nutrition, photoautotrophism and the chemoautotrophism has covered, and heterotrophic nutrition is also we have seen. So yes, this is all about the nutrition. In next video, we'll see the reproduction in the bacteria. And if you like my video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.